Hello, everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we are diving into one of the most surprising developments in modern military aviation, something that has sparked intense debate, admiration, skepticism, and curiosity around the world. Iran, a country long restricted by international sanctions, has shocked global defense observers by unveiling what it claims is its own domestically built fighter jet. For years, Iran struggled to maintain its aging fleet, largely made up of U.S. jets from before the 1979 revolution and Russian aircraft purchased later. The idea that Iran could move from maintaining old jets to producing something modern and indigenous seemed almost impossible to many. Yet here we are, analyzing how Iran reached this point, what this new fighter jet actually represents, and how it could reshape the balance of power in the region. To understand the significance of this accomplishment, we first need to look at Iran's aviation challenges. When the 1979 revolution happened, Iran inherited some of the most advanced American fighter jets of the time, including the iconic F-14 Tomcat. But with diplomatic ties severed and sanctions imposed, Iran could no longer receive parts, upgrades, or technical support. Maintaining these complex aircraft became a monumental task. Iranian engineers began cannibalizing planes for spare parts, improvising solutions, even reverse engineering components. For decades, military analysts predicted the Iranian Air Force would collapse due to lack of modernization. Yet somehow it survived. During the Iran-Iraq War in the 1980s, this lack of access to new aerospace technology became painfully clear. Iraqi forces, backed by Western and Soviet suppliers, fielded more modern systems. Iran realized that depending on foreign suppliers for crucial defense equipment was a strategic vulnerability. From that point forward, Iran's military doctrine shifted. If you cannot buy it, you must learn to build it yourself. But building a modern fighter jet is not like constructing a tank or missile. It requires mastery of aerodynamics, materials science, avionics, radar systems, jet engines, and advanced manufacturing areas where even wealthy nations struggle. Only a handful of countries, the United States, Russia, France, China, and a few others, have independently developed advanced fighter aircraft. So how did Iran move from patching old American jets to unveiling its own fighter? The answer lies in decades of incremental engineering, reverse engineering foreign technology, collaborating with partners such as Russia and China, and heavily investing in local aerospace universities and research centers. Iran began by upgrading its old fleet, experimenting with new avionics, radars, and weapons systems. Instead of being defeated by sanctions, Iran used them as a catalyst for innovation. The result of this process is what Iran now calls the Kowsar and the more advanced jet known as the Kowsar F-313, later developed into improved prototypes. The Kowsar fighter jet, presented publicly in 2018, looked at first like a modified version of older American designs, specifically the F-5 Tiger Roman II. Many critics dismissed it as just a refurbished old aircraft. However, Iran claimed it featured a fully domestic avionics suite, digital cockpit, advanced radar, and improved airframe structure. This mattered because avionics and radar upgrades are at the heart of modern air combat. Even if the airframe is based on an older design, modernizing the internal systems dramatically expands the jet's functional capability. In other words, while the Kowsar might not be a fifth-generation stealth fighter, it represented a milestone. Iran was no longer merely maintaining aircraft, it was designing and producing operational systems. The more controversial and ambitious fighter is the Kowsar F-313. When Iran first unveiled it, many aviation experts around the world mocked it. Early prototypes appeared too small, had unusual aerodynamic surfaces, and lacked visible air intakes needed for powerful jet engines. The consensus was that it was more of a mock-up than a real aircraft. However, over the years, Iran continued refining the design, testing scaled models, and eventually releasing footage of the aircraft taxiing and taking short flights. The design evolved significantly from the early presentations, incorporating more realistic air intake structures, reinforced airframe geometry, and functional cockpit systems. This progression reveals something important. Iran was learning and adapting. Nations that have successfully built fighter aircraft rarely succeed on the first attempt. China's first stealth fighter prototypes were repeatedly criticized, yet China persisted until producing the J-20. The same applies to South Korea's new KF-21. Development is iterative, slow, and full of failures. Iran's journey follows that same pattern, except under the weight of sanctions and geopolitical pressure. But what does Iran gaining the ability to produce a fighter jet actually mean in strategic terms? First, it grants Iran a degree of military independence. Instead of being forced to rely on foreign suppliers who may refuse sales or halt support, Iran can now manufacture and maintain key components domestically. Second, it sends a powerful psychological and political message. A nation that the world tried to technologically isolate has found ways around that isolation. For Iran's allies and adversaries alike, this changes the perception of Iranian capability. Yet, we must also acknowledge limitations. Iran's jets are not competing with the F-35, Su-57, or J-20. They are more likely filling the gap between aging aircraft and the need for a LOTA, mid-tier fighter that can support air defense networks and perform domestic patrol missions. But in modern warfare, effectiveness is not always about having the most advanced jet. It is about integration. Iran has built a formidable air defense network, including advanced radar arrays and missile systems like the Bavar 373, which Iran claims rivals the Russian S-300. A domestically produced fighter jet integrated into a domestic air defense network means Iran can maintain operational readiness without foreign dependency. Another key factor is cost. Advanced imported fighter jets can cost over $100 million per unit. Maintenance costs are even higher. Iran's domestic jets are likely far cheaper to produce and sustain, allowing Iran to build a larger force without exhausting its defense budget. In strategic conflict, quantity and durability matter just as much as advanced technology. Some defense analysts argue that Iran's true goal is not just building a fighter jet, but mastering jet engine technology. Jet engines are one of the hardest technologies to develop in the world. If Iran is successful in producing reliable turbofan engines, it could progress rapidly toward more advanced aircraft designs. And if Iran reaches that level, it will have crossed a threshold that only a few nations have managed. We also have to consider the regional reaction. Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the United States have long seen control of the skies as crucial to their strategic dominance in the Middle East. If Iran can field an air force that is modern enough to survive and operate in contested airspace, it complicates the strategic calculus for any military planning involving Iran. Even if Iran's jets are not superior, their existence changes the risk landscape. In the end, Iran's fighter jet program represents something larger than just military hardware. It is a statement of resilience, adaptation, and determination. Whether one views Iran as a rival, a regional power, or simply a nation asserting sovereignty, the message sent is clear. Sanctions and isolation did not stop technological development. Instead, they motivated it. As this story continues to unfold, the world will be watching closely. Will Iran refine its designs further? Will we see new generations of indigenous jets? Will Iran develop more powerful engines or stealth capabilities? Only time will tell, but what is certain is that Iran has entered a new era of military aviation, and the global balance of power will have to adjust accordingly. Thank you for watching, and if you found this explanation insightful, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more deep breakdowns of major global developments.